Hey, what's up guys? I hope you are doing absolutely fantastic. As you can see, I am recording this video in a different capacity, and that is because my tripod broke and I decided why not use the camera of my smartphone to record this video. This is our third video into choose your own CPU series and the fourth video in the build your own PC series. The links to the previous videos, I'll leave them in the description below. But in this video, we are going to take a step ahead into understanding what are the various different aspects related to learning as to how to pick your CPU, and in that direction we are going to discuss a very sensitive topic, and that is Intel versus AMD. Yes, the Intel versus AMD fight, which every person who is looking to build a computer for themselves has, and we are not going to go into the fight, but we are going to find a creative way around it. That is precisely what we are going to discuss in this video, so stay tuned. Now let's move on our attention to one very sensitive topic. Intel or AMD? My god, if I had a nickel for every time I have seen people fighting over this matter. Now here's the thing, I am not going to get into that discussion. I'm going to brush that debate aside and take you around it. The problem is, people come to some kind of conclusion where they think that they are right and that doesn't satisfy them. Now they want other people to approve them of what they are thinking. But the problem with all of this is, everything changes, isn't it? So you cannot come to a conclusion about anything as to how things are, because the moment you think this is how things are, things change. So Intel versus AMD, we are not going to get into that discussion. This is what we will take, what our need is. This is something that I have been tremendously focusing on the moment I started this video. This is something that I focused on when I created my first video. We are going to look into what our need is. If our need is fulfilled by Intel, why won't we pick up Intel, right? If it is fulfilled by AMD, why won't we pick AMD? So we are not going to go into who is nice, who is bad. Everyone is nice at some areas, everyone is bad at some areas. I don't think I need to explain that to you. But what I'm going to do is, what are the strong sides of Intel and AMD and what are the weaker sides? We are definitely going to discuss that, not because we are taking someone's side, but we want to have a clear perspective as to where things are when it comes to these two CPU manufacturers. So let's talk about AMD first. Up until 2017, the problem of choice as to what brand to pick up in order to build your own computer was virtually non-existent. It was almost always Intel. Unless, of course, you are very specific as to what your needs are and CPUs from AMD are fulfilling your purposes. Of course, in that case, you will pick something from AMD. But the scenario was such that if you actually wanted to build a computer that was worthwhile, the choice was almost always Intel. So all of this changed when AMD introduced Ryzen. Almost double the performance at almost half the price that Intel was offering, shook the market and sent a wave of joy to gamers and video editors and productivity builders alike. So when this happened, why people were really happy was not just because the processors that were offered were good, they were incredible, but because now Intel had competition. Whenever there is competition, see, competition results in improved performance, but you have to see that performance will always be limited by competition itself. So yes, competition will give you improved performance, but not to the extent when nobody is competing with anyone and creating the best product that they can create. Did that make sense? So the other case that I'm talking about, where every company is focused as building something that is incredible, that will be a different scenario, which is not the case currently. We want it to be like that, but it's not like that, so it's fine. So when Ryzen happened the way it happened, AMD almost forced Intel's hand to bring out Coffee Lake processors much before Intel intended them to come out. So this is one incredible thing that happened. So we were discussing about the pros and cons that you'll be seeing if you go with choosing an AMD processor for your build. AMD offers lower price per logical core. We know what that means. Budget builders as of now and productivity builders who are actually looking to build a PC for video editing or graphics rendering and all these kinds of purposes are actually choosing AMD for their build, because it's very light on the wallet, and it gets the job done. What's the next thing? All current generation consumer CPUs are overclockable. Should you overclock? If you want to overclock, what you are really trying to say to your computer is, I'm not satisfied with what you're offering me, and I want to push you a little further. That's what overclocking is. And with the help of certain settings you do in your system, you can actually push your system, your PC, a little bit more than what it actually offers. So this is what overclocking is. The beauty about AMD processors as of now is, every processor that you will choose, you can overclock it out of the box. When it comes to Intel, there are very specific chips that can be overclocked, and they are designated by a K at the end of their naming conventions. For example, there's Intel's Core i7-9700K. This K designates that this particular CPU from Intel can be overclocked. It definitely comes with the price point, but it's not just about price point. I told you, when a system is running, right, there's a lot of motion happening inside the system, and because of this motion, some kind of heat is generated. The very mechanism to take this heat away from the system is something that we look into when we are building a system, and we call it a cooling mechanism. You can have an air cooling or water cooled system. If you are actually willing to overclock your system, there's one very important thing that you need to look into before you actually try to do that, and that's cooling systems. You have to look whether the cooling system that you have opted on when you are building a PC will be sufficient enough if you overclock various parts of your computer. But if you are a serious overclocker, if you are an experienced builder, this will not be an issue, because you now know how much of what kind of system is needed to take what kind of heat that is generated in the system. So if you are a new builder, and if you have very specific needs in mind, like you want to just game and you are very specific, this is what you want, and you don't want to tinker with the system that you will create, overclock is something that you should not look into. So what about me? The very PC that I will be building, I'll be using it to create these videos, and I'll be also using it as a PC with which I will tinker a little bit. So yes, definitely I want to overclock my system, but not heavy overclocking, right? If you decide to overclock, you also need to make sure your motherboard has the right chipset and must have effective VRM heatsinks that lets you overclock your CPU with ease. Let's move on to our next point, and it's easy upgrade part till 2020. When Ryzen came out, AMD actually promised to keep the same socket till 2020. You know what that means? With newer generation AMD chips that will be coming out, all you need to do is update your motherboard's BIOS, and you can just pick up the newer generation CPU that has just come out and slap it into your PC, and your PC will work just fine. This was something very attractive for newer builders, because this is something that happened on the Intel side, and which actually made a lot of people sad, and also led to many people switch from Intel to AMD. And what was that? Let me explain you how the sockets of Intel has been designed for the last 3 or 4 years. There's LGA 1150 and then there's LGA 1151. Both these sockets differ by just a single pin. So now a newer version of LGA 1151 was created just to incorporate the newer 8th generation Intel processors. The LGA 1151 version 1 was physically exactly the same as the newer version that was created, but get this, the newer processors were not compatible with the earlier version of LGA 1151. And the reasoning that Intel gave behind this was the power delivery subsystem that these newer processors uses was much different than the earlier processors. So this made a lot of people sad, and this was also a reason for many people to switch over to AMD. It's always good that you know that you can upgrade your computer to reality standards of the current time by as much ease as possible. So these are some of the pros that AMD and Ryzen is offering right now, but that doesn't mean there is no cons to it. So where are the things where AMD is still lacking? When it comes to single core performance, Intel is still at a lead. So I mentioned this in the previous part of this video also, that if you are strictly building something for gaming purposes, the people who actually know this kind of stuff will tell you that if you are building a computer strictly for gaming purposes and apps that use single threaded workloads, you need to go with Intel. Alright, so now that we have looked into what AMD's pros and cons were, now let's move on to Intel and look at objectively what Intel is offering right and where it is lacking as for this time. Now obviously the cons that we saw in AMD are obviously pros when it comes to Intel, because we are seeing things in a relative sense. So obviously when it comes to IPC or single core clock performance, Intel is still handling the mantle, although as I mentioned again this in the previous part of my video, that with the upcoming 3rd gen Ryzen processors, people are saying that it will be taken care of in their newer generation chips, where the IPC will be very competitive when it is compared with Intel. But as of now, this is the scenario where it is at. If you are looking at single core performances, Intel is winning. with good margins. Most consumer grade CPUs come with an integrated graphics processor. I don't want you to be very attached to this particular point that because it is offering an integrated graphics processor, I must pick an Intel chip, because most of the times it is not that strong. And with the APUs that AMD has come up with, this is still one place where Intel is getting really good competition from AMD. Power delivery subsystems in Intel chips have always been good, so this is again one place where Intel chips are really nice. Cons, and there are quite a few at this point. The first thing is higher price point. Yes, your wallets will get a little lighter if you invest in a high-end Intel chip. This is also one point where people who are building a computer on lower budgets are shifting over to Ryzen, because for the needs that they have, the price that they have to pay to AMD is very less in comparison to something similar from Intel side. So higher price point is one of the biggest cons if you are looking to build a PC which is very budget oriented. So when I say budget, I don't mean cheap. That means you have a very fixed amount fixed for various different parts of a PC. So higher price points is one such con. Lower multi-core performance. This is obviously very clear from what I've been speaking so much. If you're actually looking to build a computer for rendering purposes, 3D animation and all these kinds of things, everyone will almost suggest you to just go with Ryzen CPUs. Next, no overclocking capacity out of the box. Yes, there are overclocking chips with a K attached at its naming convention, but you will soon find that it will come with a price point. So if you are someone who wants to overclock and you don't want to invest a lot, AMD chips that are coming are obviously unlocked out of the box, so you can just directly go and pick one AMD chip if that is what you want. But yes, if you're looking to overclock on an Intel platform, then it will definitely come with a price point. This is our objective lookup into both the sides as to what are the benefits each side of offering and what are the pain points each side is offering. Again, I want to make this point very clear that I don't want you to be a person who actually takes sides in this Intel versus AMD fight. The only reason why I'm saying this is because once you identify yourselves with one particular side, what happens is your mind and your logic starts functioning around protecting that side, right? But if you really want to critically think at something, what you really need to understand is what your particular need is. It doesn't matter whether it's Intel who's fulfilling your need, it's AMD what is fulfilling your need, you move ahead with that. Alright guys, so that was it as far as understanding which CPU you should go with, which brand of CPU you should go with, Intel or AMD. I hope you learned something in this video which you didn't know before, and if there are any other doubts as far as what are the various different parameters that we discussed in this video and how we arrived at the need that we have in choosing a CPU and building our PC, that is something that I discussed in the previous part of this series. I'll leave the links to all of those videos in the description box below, and I'll also leave cards somewhere over here so that you can go and watch those videos directly. And with that said guys, I hope you take great care of yourselves, and I am going to see you in the next video of this series. Take care till then. Namaskar.